So imagine you're invited to join a ship and to go on a voyage of discovery. And you're really excited about this, but when you join the ship, you realise that people don't know each other and people don't really communicate with each other. And the person who's leading the voyage, the captain of the ship, doesn't seem to communicate with anybody on the ship. Nobody seems to know what they're supposed to do, and people seem to have different understandings of what it is they should do and what the purpose of the journey is. Nobody's checked how much food or how much water is on board, and you set off and it's really unclear to you what the final destination of the journey should be, what the aims of the journey are and what the intentions of the journey are. And you set off and you sail off, and everything seems to have no direction and no plan. And shortly there's all kinds of problems. The ship seems to go around and around in circles. People begin to argue with each other. Some people don't seem to do anything. And the ship begins to run out of food and water. And in the end, the ship has to be rescued. And the voyage has been a complete failure. Now, we don't have to go far in order to find out many projects that fail. And projects fail for all different kinds of reasons. And it can be general blunders, mistakes. It can be that the project is overdue, it's over time, it's not on schedule. It can be that it's over budget, that people have spent too much money on the project. It can be that people haven't really communicated with each other. It can be the purpose is really unclear. It can be that there are insufficient resources. So insufficient means there's not enough. Or it could simply, very often, it can be some kind of vanity project. So a vanity project or a prestige project is something that's only done with the aim of getting praise or fame or approval, rather than for serious or good reasons. So there are many reasons why projects fail. So how do we change failure into success? Well, with project management, there is something called the project life cycle. And the project life cycle has 5 stages. And if a project goes through these 5 stages, then the project has a much greater chance of success. So let's have a look at these 5 stages. The 5 stages are: stage 1, initiation. Stage 2 is planning. Stage 3 is execution. Stage 4 is monitoring and controlling. And stage 5 is closure. So let's go through each of these stages. So the first stage is initiation. And initiation is about making all those first very general, very broad decisions. It's the starting point. So what kind of things would you check and define in general terms? Well, these would be things like the overall goals and the objectives and the aims, the purpose of the project. And you'll also check and examine and explore whether you're able to do the project. So what you'll be checking is the feasibility or the viability of the project. And the feasibility, maybe in order to check the feasibility, you'll undertake some kind of feasibility study. You'll check the general scope of the project. You know, what are the timings? What's the kind of budget that you've got? Who are the people involved in the project? So you'd have a look at your stakeholders and you define who the stakeholders are. And these are the people who have an interest in the project. Maybe there's some kind of sponsors for the project. And you'll check how the project affects them and what the general outcomes for these stakeholders should be. At the same time, you'll probably be looking for somebody who's very experienced and has got expertise in order to lead the project. You'll need some kind of project management. So this is all in very general and in very broad terms, and establishing some kind of broad roadmap for the project. So we said that the initiation is all about establishing things in very general terms. So when you come into the planning stage, then what you do is start looking at the detailed planning for the project. So you're moving from the general to the detailed, you're moving to the nitty-gritty, you're looking at nailing things down. And there are different things that you would look at. So you would look together at putting together a project team and introducing that team to each other. And you'd be looking at things like expertise, experience, but also things like enthusiasm and mindset for the project. The overall aims and intentions of the purpose will be clarified to all the members of the team, and then all the tasks will be looked at, and all the tasks that are needed in order to complete the project will be broken down and they will be planned out. Timings for the project will be set out, so there'll be different milestones and deadlines for different parts of the project, and there'll be a starting phase for each part of the project and a finishing phase for each part of the project, and a starting time for the project and the finishing time for the project. You'll also be looking at communication and how different members of the team, how they will communicate and who is communicating to whom. All in all, it's a little bit like setting out a blueprint, an outline for the whole of the project. And then after the initiation and planning, then you can move on to execution. And execution is the phase then when you do the project. What you do is you put the plan into action, and you put the plan into motion. And all the tasks are done according to the plan, and all the resources that you need, and all the different team members that you need, they're allocated to the different tasks, and everybody sets about doing what they've planned to do. So then we come on to the next stage, which is monitoring and controlling. And monitoring and controlling goes on through the project. And all the time, you're checking and you're measuring whether the progress and the performance on the project, whether that aligns with the plan that you've made for the project. And all the time you're having reviews and you're having updates, and you're checking that the timings and the budget, that everything is on track and that everything is on schedule. And if things are not running on track and things are not on track, then you will make some kind of changes. You will take some kind of corrective action that will align the project and put the project back on track and align it with the overall plan for the project. Or you will put into place any contingency plans that you have, so any plan Bs that you've made during the planning phase. So then we come on to closure, which is the final stage. And closure is all about finalizing. It's all about finishing the project. So it's finishing all the activities according to the plan of the project. And this will be, of course, handing over the project, and it will involve completing any outstanding deliverables. It will be about getting the acceptance of the stakeholder or the client. It will be about informing everybody who's involved on the project, probably getting them together and informing them that the project is actually closed and that no further work needs to be done on the project, and you disband the team. And it will be about closing out all the contracts involved with the project. Another final step that can be done in closure then is to do some analysis of the project, probably some kind of documentation that examines what went on in the project, so you can analyze what went well and what went badly, or what went so-so, and document this, and this will help with future projects. So at the beginning of this video, we talked about projects and why projects fail. And one of the ways that you can change failure into success is by using this project life cycle and going through these 5 stages. Initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and closure. Now this will provide a systematic approach. And if you have this systematic approach, and there's lots of planning, and there's lots of communication, and there's lots of checking within the project, then you've got a much greater chance of success. There's a much greater chance of success that people are totally aware of the goals and the intention of the purpose of the project, and that you achieve these goals and intentions of the project. So before we finish this video, let's have a look at some tools that can be used during the planning and execution and monitoring stages of the project. And the first tool that I'd like to talk about is a work breakdown structure, or this is called a WBS for short. And a WBS is all about the tasks. And this defines the tasks and documents the tasks that have to be done in the project. If you have documents, people in the project can keep referring back to the documents all the way through the project. It defines the tasks and it breaks down those tasks. A communication plan is all about communication. And again, it's documentation that people can refer back to all the time. And a communication plan will outline who communicates to whom about what. And it will also define what kind of communication what communication channel should be used in order to make the communication. So should it be a report? Should it be a telephone call? Should it be a video conference? Should it be some kind of email? It will also define the frequency at which these means of communication should be followed through on. And it can also define the level of urgency of different types of communication. Another thing that could be increasingly important with communication plans as well, especially if we talk about international projects, could be defining what language is used at what time. And again, if we're thinking about international business, we should maybe thinking about the use of English. So maybe, for example, if you've got different international teams, you've got an Italian team, a Swedish team, a Danish team, you could define that the Italians speak Italian to each other for certain parts of the project, but when they come together in an overall meeting with the Swedes and the Danes, then everybody has to use English. So these kind of things can be defined in the communication plan. So then we can move on to a Gantt chart. And a Gantt chart is to do with time, and it's like a visual timeline of the project. And you have the different tasks that have to be completed on the vertical line, and you have time on the horizontal line. And then there are different bars in the Gantt chart for different tasks. So the Gantt chart will show you the starting point of the project and the finishing point of the project, and it will show you the starting points and the finishing points at different phases of the project. It will show you overlapping phases, so phases of the project that are being completed at the same time. It will show you deadlines. It will show you when certain tasks have to be finished. So this can be to do with dependency of the task. So task A has to be done before task B can be started. You can also show milestones during the project. You can build in time buffers. So time buffers are really extra time that's added into the time estimate to keep the project on track. This gives you a kind of leeway, it gives you room in planning, and this is to do with risk management, to be able to deal with unforeseen situations. So let's come back to our ship and the voyage of discovery. Now imagine what a different voyage it would be if people planned and they executed the project according to the plan. And you joined the ship and you met the crew, and the captain of the ship introduced you to everybody who was on the ship. And everybody's communicating with everybody, and everybody's very sure about what the purpose of the journey is and what the intentions of the journey is. And they're very clear what they should be doing on the journey and what their tasks and responsibilities are. It's very clear what the final destination is going to be, and also what the different milestones on the journey are. So what are the in-between places that we're going to visit on the journey? It's also very clear what the starting point of the journey is, and it's very clear when we will be meeting our final destination. So thank you very much for listening to this video. Please have a look at my other videos to do with business English and to do with setting goals and objectives. And please subscribe. Please like this if you like this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.